Hello everybody, I'm back, and today I got yet another modification for the Furibee F36s. This is a brand new one I just pulled out of the box. I'm going to be messing around with that here today. But this is the one we're going to be working on, and I already have done with you guys the two-bladed prop mods, the battery bay mod to use 260 milliamp BA batteries, the camera modification with the RJX 1380 camera and these canopies, and we've done transmitter modifications so far. So this one here is going to be an antenna protector. Something to cover over this antenna to keep it from getting bashed up and broken off in a crash. Now initially what I had was this here was out of an old piece of parts tree, and I heated it up, bent it around, flattened out these edges with, with heat and pliers and everything, and it took a while to get that formed and get it drilled out and ready to mount. So I wanted something easier and something that's more readily available, quicker to make, and super ultra cheap. Well, here's what I came up with. Zip tie. This is a 14-inch zip tie. It's about 5 millimeters wide. I can get 2 antenna protectors out of this one 14-inch zip tie. Now I buy these things in bulk, so I don't pay very much for them. It's like a few dollars per, not even a couple dollars per 100 pack. I usually buy them 1,000 at a time, different sizes, because I also do computer work and stuff. So I always have these things running around, and parts trees for other models are not always readily available, and you don't always have the right sizes, lengths, and things like that. But zip ties, all over the place, you can get them really cheap. Now, what I ended up with was this here. Looks very similar to the one with the parts tree, but this is cut to 138 millimeters in length. And you will have to adjust your length of this when you cut it to whatever antenna you have on. So you have a clover leaf or a camera that sits up a little higher. You have the, and like me, I put these antennas down to help protect them as well. If you want to leave them up, of course you'd have to make this longer. But 138 millimeters gives me plenty of room underneath there, so there's no way that antenna could ever get hit. And this is what we ended up with right here. There's plenty of room under there, and this is very stable. It doesn't move around much. It certainly doesn't move back and forth front to back. It moves a little bit side to side, and it doesn't go much in a crash, even a hard crash going down if it landed straight on its top. So my antenna is very protected, so is the camera. I mean, I got it that length so when it crashes upside down it does not hit the camera lens. It might touch the end of the antenna there, but I am going to be moving that down just a little bit further somehow eventually. But that's what it ends up looking like. Now it is mounted to the bottom of the Furibees, and on the bottom of the Furibees, let's get this zoomed in here. I just got this camera, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it, but let's get that focused in a little bit better, and of course you'll probably hear the autofocus there. Now, on the bottom of the Furibees, this part right here is where it's going to end up mounting. That's where your screw is going to go in. But on the Furibees, these are not drilled out. These are not already tapped out. So you're going to have to do that yourself. And they are just completely blocked in. There's no hole to begin with at all. So I used just a little straight pin that you can pick up like in the sewing sections of craft stores and such. And you get a box of a couple hundred of them real cheap. And they're handy to have around for things. But this here, all I did was I took and heated up the needle, and right in the center of that I just poked a little hole, just getting it started just enough to get the screws to get a bite on there so I can tap them in. And what I ended up using are some 1.2, geez, these things are small, 1.2 by 4 millimeter screws that also have the they have the washer style top on them. You can't really see that here. It's really small. But that's what I ended up getting. I got a bunch of those. I got them in a pack. It came with the M1.2 by 4s and M1.4 by 5s and some grommets. So they're a little bit longer than the stock Furibee screws, and they work out quite well for this. So after you tap these out, you got to tap out both sides, get your screw out after you tap them out, and get that ready. Now this, I cut this, like I said, 138 millimeters. Now I used two different drill bits here. I used a 1.2 millimeter drill bit for the bottom hole where the screw goes in, and I used a 1.5 millimeter to go in to the side for utilizing the body pin on the bottom of the Furybees, which is right here where the body snaps on. So I'm actually utilizing that as support for this and a mounting solution there. So what I did was the 1.2 millimeter screw hole with the drill bit was 2.5 millimeters from the end of my cut to the center of the hole. Then from that center of the hole to the next hole for the 1.5 millimeter hole, that was 3 millimeters apart, center to center. And then I bent this around, and all I did to bend this around was I just used some needle nose pliers that had the smooth face on them, and just grabbed a hold of it and just bent it over with my finger in between the two holes, and then you pinch it together, and you can actually do a pinch and roll to adjust the length of it so it lines up with your screw holes and everything. And as for bending it this way, I just used a lighter, just lightly heated it up, formed it around, held it like this, and I just lightly heated it up and then kind of formed it a little bit and just worked it until it was the shape I wanted. Now these things do heat up really fast, so you got to be very light with a heat gun or lighter, whatever you use. But after you get that ready, you have on your Furibee, the side hole on this would go where your body pin is, and you got it is a snug fit when you first put it on, and you do want a snug fit so you don't have any play in there, so it doesn't flop around on you. And this one should wiggle on pretty good. I've already had it on here once to stretch it out just a little bit. But once you get that on there, you see how it's in there in the body pin. And now that screw hole, once you get it all the way on, should line right up, and you put your screw in, and that mounts that side. And then do the other side, so that way you don't have it flinging off on you. You push the other side on, you put your screw in there, and it's ready to go. So let me get this off of here. And here's the finished product, the way it's mounted. Got the M1.2 by 4 millimeter screw in there, and it is mounted into the body pin. You don't have any movement to speak of. Let me get this zoom back out so we can see here. You don't have hardly anything, just a little bit of movement side to side, nothing front to back hardly, just a little bit of flex. You can get a good hit on this and it won't do anything. Side hits, you get a little bit. If you've got a clover leaf, I still don't think that's going to harm the antenna any. It might a little bit if you got it much higher, but it's certainly not going to let your antenna get banged up like it usually would. Now this is just the cheapest way I could think of doing this. It was the fastest way, the easiest way. If you want to make these things, like I said, you're going to have to adjust your length of these according to whatever antenna you have underneath here, however much safety margin you want for flex or whatever. But this has worked out really well. I've been flying this one with this on here. I have not had a single problem. I have it up as high as I did, so when it lands like this, it doesn't hit the camera lens. If you just kind of do this, and you can see there's plenty of clearance there to the camera lens. So in a crash, it's not going to hit. Now back here is still a little bit with my antenna, just barely touches, but I'm going to just get that antenna to bend down just a little bit further, and it should be safe. So just keep in mind the length of this cut is whatever antenna you need in there and how much protection you need. And you might mess up a few of them the first couple of times doing them, but how cheap are zip ties? Oh my gosh, you can get 100 pack of these for a couple of bucks. And if you get the long 14-inch things, you can get a couple of cuts out of these, couple of protectors out of them. But yeah, zip ties. For the life of me, I couldn't think of what I was going to do for a couple of weeks for an antenna protector. But then I'm sitting here messing with zip ties, putting something else together. I'm like, I wonder if this would work for an antenna protector. And sure enough, it works out absolutely excellent. Easy to make, easy to slap on there, as long as you got some screws to put in there. The screws, by the way, you can just do a search on Furibee screws, the EA Sheen E010 screws, Inductrix screws, and you can find these. I found these on Amazon, and it was like 60 pieces. There's a few extras in there. It wasn't that much. It was like $8 I think it was for all those screws. So there you go. Simple modification, super cheap modification. Protect your antenna on your cameras, for your FPV cameras, for your Furybees and your little micros. Works out great. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next video.